Welcome to Inside Outboards with your host, Kodibass.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. All you Kodi hackers and all you new subscribers, thank you for being a subscriber. Yippee! All right, in the last video, I think we found a problem to this little 15 horsepower Johnson 1990. We had some delamination going on the impeller. We had salt plugging everything. And I had, you know, quite a few people weigh in, and I was a little bit surprised. Some of you guys, I'm not that familiar with it, so you weighed in and said, you know, I'm not in a saltwater environment, and man, here in, I think one guy said Indiana or something, he goes, I get these things with that lower drain hole plugged all the time with sand and mud, and that makes sense. I'm ignorant to that. I don't know. You know, I lived in Florida, you know, growing up and such as that, and around the saltwater. And Florida has some nasty saltwater. And then here, that's a good question. A sub asked me, well, is the salinity maybe in Alaskan waters really, really high? And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find that out. If anybody knows, weigh in. I don't drink it. Now, I've had it splashed up in my mouth, and it tastes plenty salty to me. You understand? That's a good question. I think I read somewhere one time that Florida water is like super off the chart salinity water. In fact, I watched like a documentary video on YouTube about the OMC and even Mercury. They bought property and opened up like proving ground test sites down there in Florida somewhere, and I want to say it was around Jacksonville, at least one of them. And the reason why they did that was because the salinity of that area, that water, was like off the chart. And you know, that's where you want to test and do a proving ground situation for your products. And I remember that documentary, and then I think I've also read it. But here in Alaska, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But I'm gonna try and research it. That's interesting. But it was interesting to me that several subscribers, commenters, said that they live in freshwater areas, you know, Kentucky, Indiana, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but they were like, they find the same thing. Well, same thing, only different. You know, they find these things plugged all the time, and I just kind of made an assumption that if you're in freshwater, you don't deal with that. But, you know, there's other things, you know, limestone, quartz, whatever. I mean, there's other things, I'm sure, that react to metal, and yeah, I should have been a little more versed on that because of some of the schools I've been to, but I just never really thought about it. But then I had a couple people say, you know, take a piece of stainless steel wire, which is way more rigid and everything, and dig that out, and a couple other comments like that where they told me to do that. And here's what I found. Shut up. Anyway, here's what I found. At least here, with the salties like I get them. That passage that runs down the forward compartment of these 9915s low profiles, that I can see, it's only about 3/4 inches square or rectangular that runs down through there. And I have spent the time, trust me, over the years, digging that crap out of there with, you know, I showed you some in the last video of my tools, the long drill bits, the pokey things, and, you know, only to find that the next season, you know, because I tell the customers when I service their motors, if it's all plugged up, I tell them what I found and what to look out. I tell them there should be about a half a cup of water when they lift that up off the boat or take it out of the tank or whatever. There should be about a half a cup of water come out of there. And, you know, and some of them are pretty good about remembering what I tell them to look for. And I've had them run them for one season, which our boating seasons are short. And then they come in at the beginning of the next season and go, this thing ain't draining out of there again. And so what it amounts to, I think, is that salt crud, even though I can finally drill through it and poke up through it and blow compressed air, there's just so much of it in there that gets like cement and it's all jagged and everything. It's like a cavern or a cave. Stalactites. Them stalagmites. Stalagites in your outboard. It just, what happens is, yeah, I finally get water going through a jagged, crusty cave down through there. But then they run it. I'm thinking even, you know, let's say they were the second owner of the motor, and the first owner didn't flush it hardly at all and allowed all that to build up in there. And then somebody else buys the motor and they flush it, you know, every time they use it. The damage is done. The damage done. It's there. And yeah, I can auger a hole through there and get, you know, up through there and get it going. But because the salt, crusty, the corroded surface, the pits and everything that's in there, it builds up very fast again, and they run into the same problem. This particular motor is my motor, so I have no problem knowing what I've seen and so forth of drilling that second hole 1 inch higher. Even that at times has failed for me. But I honestly would rather have a second hole, maybe even a third hole, rather than trying to repair the forward northern dreaded crack. Yes, I have repaired them. I've you know, I've done a few things. I've done the Aluma welds, I've done the marine techs and so forth, and those things are adequate most of the time. But I'd rather, what I've even done on some of them when they're really bad plugs, I drill that inch higher hole, and then I drill one a little bit smaller, about a 1/4 inch above it, and one a little bit smaller above that, about another 1/4 inch. So it's a stair-stepped hole. And for these really salty motors that have kind of, ain't gonna, you know, well, yeah, kind of been neglected, I think I'd rather have that than an ugly, jagged crack. Most of the time, I've only seen, well, maybe 2 that have come here that have cracked so bad that they breached the oil chamber. And that's a motor that, you know, if you get to that point, it's parts. He's 18 years old. Anyway, that's what I found. Another surprising several comments. Like I said, location, location, location. You understand? I had a lot of people weigh in and go, I got tons of those starter brackets for those 9.9s, 15s. I wish I had them. in my neck of the woods, they sell good. So, and I don't have tons and tons and tons. So what you can do, go to my homepage, look down there, you'll see my business address. And if you got tons of them, I got a birthday coming up. That's pathetic, huh? Anyway, so I got this thing, I think, straightened out, and I'm going to put it back together if that was the problem. And 99.9% it was the problem. Then I won't be adding an electric start system to this motor. This cutie. Because, like I said, when I'm setting those up, I prefer to pull the power head, to take off that exhaust, and then, you know, and all that, paint everything, make it beautiful and a cutie. And then, you know, I do the whole gamut thing so that in the spring I have a 9.915 low profile that looks amazingly brand new and has all the bells and whistles. So I won't be doing that to this Johnson 1990 15 horsepower if this takes care of it. But we still got to slap this lower back in that upper and see that that did. And I think it most probably, after blowing air down through the telltale and all that, I think it'll take care of it. So let's get started putting it back together, throwing it in there, putting it in the tank, and see what we got. Okay, I put me a blob of Vaseline, petroleum jelly right there. Now I'm going to put that little pin there. That'll hold that pin. Then I just line up the propeller with the slot. And there she goes. There. So now she's on there. She's going to push back up until I put the cover on. Okay, and then I just shoot a little super clean or whatnot on there. And then we got to push that impeller. Whoops. Hang on. Making this way harder than it needs to be because of that pressure on the there we go. Now, let's hold that there. And there we go. Okay. Now, I cleaned it all up pretty good. And the way I do it is I turn clockwise and push down. And we'll get us a bolt in there. That should hold it. Okay. Now, these look like all four long ones, so let's see. Yeah. Could have swore that's what it came out with, though. Let me try this. Okay, it did. All right. up here around the top. I'm going to put some anti-geese. Put the anti-geese. Not on the top, just on the sides. And there we go. All right. Hey, what is it? I know you guys, people who tune in to outboard channels, are the whole smartest of the YouTube bunch. So I need your help. I found this in a dumpster. What it is, I don't know. It says on it, well, this handle screws in and out. It's threaded right here. So you can screw it in. See it coming up there? You can screw that handle in. You can screw that handle out a little bit. And then on it, it says, man, I think that's an E. It's either Fleck Heart or Elk Heart, because the E's really worn down, but I think that's an E. I think it says Elk Heart. Yeah, I can almost see a little bit of the E on the bottom, so it kind of looks like an F, but I think it's an E. I think it's an Elk Heart tool, and then here it says S454. And I know you guys are smart enough, someone out there in that YouTube world knows what this is. Is it just like something that opens like a 55-gallon drum lid or a bucket lid? It just kind of, and then this screws in and out, and it's kind of, you know, it's shaped like almost a little house or something right in here. So is that for putting on something and screwing tight and turning? And this is for like prying something up, and it's got a hole. And I thought it was probably just, you know, like for opening 5-gallon buckets or a 55-gallon drum or something. But then I thought, why would they make it out of such nice brass? You know, this whole top is beautiful brass. So I don't know what it is. So I need y'all to tell me what it is. Is it worth $1 million and I'm going to be rich and I can quit working forever and ever? What is it? This little booger here, it's actually kind of scary fast for such a small little bitty dinky little itty bitty little bitty scoot scoot. It's scary fast. Got disc brakes in the back. No brakes in the front. At least I don't think there is. Nope. Coleman CC100X. Yeah, scary fast. Oh, look what somebody dropped off. What's left of it is very, very old. Something I found kind of neat that my friend pointed out to me. See the socket? Or socket. See the sprocket? You see there's an inner one and an outer one. So if you want torque, trail riding abilities, you use the big sprocket. If you want speed on smoother surfaces, you take off the big sprocket with 4 bolts and use the little rear sprocket. So this model was before Honda came up with the Trail 90, I think. And this was called the Cub 90 or something like that. When they came up with the Trail 90, at least the later ones I know, the engine itself on the gear case had a high-low range. But this is how you did high-low range old school. What am I going to do with it? I have no idea.
Coming on Inside Outboards with your host, kodibass.